now they wonder what's gonna happen next. I bought a 40 for the ride, I'm swerving lanes when I'm drunk as shit. I hit them up when I'm drinking so we can talk about it. I tell them how I feel and they forget about me. Like they know how it feels to be forgot about, forget about my past. It's me, SimbaTV. Bang! What is good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Simba coming back here again with another reaction video for you guys today. For today's reaction video, we got the schoolgirls murdered by their teacher's boyfriend, man. So without further ado, let's jump up in it.
This is the story of a bizarre case that rocked Britain in 2003. With no obvious motives or previous psychological illness, the perpetrator behind the following crime committed one of the most senseless, spur-of-the-moment acts of violence where two young girls would lose their lives in the process. Welcome back to Twisted Minds. My name is James, and today we will be exploring the case of the Soham murders. The story begins at around 11 a.m. on August 4th, 2002, when 10-year-old Jessica Chapman left her home on Brook Street, Soham, to visit her best friend, Holly Wells, at Red House Gardens. At the Wells house, both girls and a third friend named Natalie Park played video games for a while before Natalie left to go home in the afternoon. At this point, both Holly and Jessica had changed into matching Manchester United football shirts and were being photographed by Holly's mother before they all went downstairs for dinner. At around 6:15 p.m., both girls left Holly's house without informing her parents or anyone at all. They had decided to head down to the local sports center to buy some sweets. On their way back from the sports center, Holly and Jessica walked past the home of one Ian Huntley, who was a caretaker at the secondary school. This is the point where the details of the event become foggy and subject to hearsay. No one knows for sure what happened after both girls stopped to talk to Huntley, but it was assumed that he lured the girls into his house under the guise of familiarity. It just so happened that Huntley was the boyfriend of Maxine Carr, who was a teaching assistant at the St. Andrew's Primary School, where both girls attended. Unbeknown to them, Maxine wasn't in the house, but was out of town visiting her mother in Grimsby, Lincolnshire. According to Huntley's account, he was cleaning his dog at around 6:30 p.m. when both girls just happened to walk by, but allegedly, one of them was experiencing a nosebleed. He brought them both inside to attend to the nosebleed, and after the interaction, the events that followed were unknown. The only known variable was that both girls died that evening at the hands of Ian Huntley, with the most likely cause of death being asphyxiation. Meanwhile, at the Wells residence, Holly's mother entered her daughter's room to discover both girls were nowhere inside the house. Panicking, Holly's mother searched the rest of the house with the help of Holly's big brother and other house guests present at the time. At about 8:30 p.m., Jessica's parents were already on edge, wondering why their daughter wasn't back home yet. A few minutes later, they received a call from the Wells residence asking them if the girls were at their home, at which point it was concluded that both girls were missing. Holly and Jessica were reported missing by their parents by 9:55 p.m., according to the police. The local authorities wasted no time in organizing a search for the missing girls, and in under a few hours, more than 300 officers were deployed to join in the search efforts. They carried out intensive door-to-door searches across every house in the Soham district with the help of volunteers and community members, including some U.S. Air Force personnel stationed in the area. Early the next morning, pictures and descriptions of both girls were released to the media. The pictures had the girls in the same Manchester jerseys they wore the night they were missing. Both parents were sure their daughters wouldn't talk to strangers, as they were always warned not to do so. So, in the unfortunate event that they were taken, it would have had to have been someone they knew. To this end, police interrogated every registered sex offender in and around the surrounding areas. More than 200 registered sex offenders and pedophiles were interrogated, none of whom ended up being a suspect. 4 days after the girls went missing, CCTV footage was released showing both girls arriving at the sports center to buy sweets at about 6:28 p.m. But there was nothing beyond when they left to indicate where they were headed next. Following the released footage and pictures, tips began pouring in from people stating that they had seen both girls at some point in the evening they went missing. By some stroke of luck or just sheer irrationality, 28-year-old Ian Huntley revealed to the police on August 5th that he had a brief conversation with the little girls before they went missing. According to Huntley's formal account, the girls had walked up to him while he was outside his front door cleaning his dog. They inquired if his girlfriend Maxine had gotten the full-time teaching position she applied for. He allegedly replied that she hadn't gotten the job, to which they responded, "Tell her we're sorry," before allegedly walking in the direction of a bridge down the street. Seeing as he was the last witness to see the girls, police searched his house, finding nothing incriminating except the obscenely large amount of washed clothing hanging out to dry despite the fact that it was raining. To this, Huntley told police that his house was experiencing flooding, and the clothing was used to wipe away the water. The very next day, on August 6th, Huntley went to pick up Maxine at her mother's place in Grimsby, where a neighbor noticed an odd interaction between the two. Marion Clint, a neighbor of Maxine's mother, noticed Huntley staring blankly into the trunk of his car for the longest time with Maxine beside him, bowing her head, seemingly crying. When Huntley noticed the old woman watching, he quickly closed the trunk of the car and the couple left immediately.
Wow.
In the days and weeks following the disappearance of the girls, Huntley gave several live interviews to news outlets, seen as how he was the last person to talk to the girls before they went missing.
I don't understand how people can do like things like that, especially to little children, and then go on this press tour, you know, talking to the press and claiming innocence and saying, you know, oh, I talked to them last before they went missing and they went this. It's like, do you have no conscience? No regret? No humanity? Like that's just, it's mind-blowing to me, man.
He spoke with big media outlets like Sky News and even the BBC, speaking on behalf of the community and expressing how shocked and saddened everyone was at the whole situation. He soon became known as the unofficial spokesman for the Soham
Wow.
community, always ready to speak to any media outlet or newspaper asking questions about the disappearance of the girls. He would later recount that he genuinely felt pain and frustration the entire community was feeling, which was quite hypocritical of him.
Yeah.
His girlfriend Maxine was also interviewed a few times by the media to get her take on the situation. When asked where she was during the evening when the girls were talking with Huntley, she replied by saying she was also present at the time, but wasn't at the door as she was in the shower.
Wow. So, ooh, people piss me off, bro. That makes my blood just boil, dog. So, yo boyfriend commits this unspeakable murder of 2 children, right? While you're away, and then tells you, I'm assuming since y'all was both looking in the trunk of the car and you were crying and bowing your head and whatnot, tells you and shows you what he has done, and then you take his side? You take his side? You start making up an alibi saying that, oh yeah, I was in the shower, I was there, like, no. You pick up the phone and you send that dude straight to jail, bro. If he did it to them, he'll probably do it to you. Let's be real. He'll probably do it to other people. Wow, I get it, ride or die, but in those situations, hell no. You killing innocent kids? What these kids do to you? Ride or die my ass, you on your own, bro. You did something disgusting, despicable, horrible. I'm snitching. Don't bring me into it. I want you locked up. You're a menace to society.
He even added, I only wish we had asked them where they were going. If only we knew then what we know now. Then we could have stopped them or done something about it. She said this knowing fully well that she was nowhere near the house at the time the girls allegedly came by. Leading into the second week after the disappearance and after several on-air interviews, Huntley had begun to lose weight during his interviews and was showing visible symptoms of insomnia with bags around his eyes and generally looking fatigued. He played this off by saying the guilt of being the last person to see that the girls was weighing down on him, and he even wept a few times during interviews. Suspicion began to fill the air around Huntley when he would ask very unusual questions to police during the search exercises. He regularly asked police and federal officers about the progress of the case, usually pushing for more details than the officers were willing to give. If he didn't get a favorable answer from one officer, he would move on to another. He even asked on numerous occasions how long it takes for DNA evidence to deteriorate beyond recognition. When he was questioned about his inquiries, he would often attribute it to his concern for the safety of the girls in catching whoever had abducted them. One officer in particular noticed some rather odd scratches which were vertical on Huntley's face, each of which was about 2 to 3 centimeters in length, matching finger marks. When questioned about the scratches, he simply shrugged them off to his dog. With suspicion still growing around Huntley and Maxine, they were brought in for questioning and were interrogated separately, with no contact with each other. Both of them were placed under police witness protection custody until tests and investigations on his house were completed. At this point, things began to unravel for Huntley as police began to receive several calls from Grimsby informing them that they recognized Huntley from his interviews online. They began divulging how Huntley had been accused of extreme sexual crimes only a few years back when he lived in Grimsby. They even began to unravel Maxine's story as well, stating that she wasn't in Soham on the night of the disappearance, but was really in Grimsby with her mother and partying with some of her friends. Things only got worse for the couple from there on out. Each room at Huntley's house was searched and was found to have been extensively cleaned with intensive cleaners that left a strong odor behind. Some items discovered at Huntley's house were clothes for little girls, which happened to match with the kind of clothes both girls wore the night they went missing. Among the clothes were fragments of burnt pieces of Manchester United jerseys, which the girls had worn the night they disappeared, hidden away in a bin beside Huntley's house. His car was also searched with forensic equipment, and it turned out that the car had also been recently cleaned using industrial bleaches and highly potent cleaning agents. Also, the police found mixtures of dirt, brick, and concrete, which didn't match any road in Soham or even nearby towns and communities. Both Huntley and Maxine were arrested on the 17th of August on suspicion of abduction of little Holly and Jessica. While Huntley and his girlfriend were being detained, something else was about to unravel 15 miles away. At around noon on August 17th, a gatekeeper named Keith Peter was noticing some bothersome smells from around the farm, which he shrugged off for a few days before being unable to take it anymore. So he decided to investigate the source of the smell. Going through all the overground bushes around the farm with his friend Peter, he made a discovery that shocked him to his bones. About 600 yards from the dirt roads, he noticed an indication a ditch had something in it, and upon closer examination, he realized that the ditch contained human remains, specifically of 2 little children. Upon realizing that they were human remains, Peter called the police immediately, and they showed up a few minutes later to take care of the bodies. They were not so easily identified as they had been dead for well over 13 days, and the corpses were already decomposing to the point that made identification a problem. In a weak attempt to destroy evidence of the crime, Huntley tried to burn the bodies of both girls, but was severely unsuccessful. The police didn't accurately identify the bodies, but it was clear that what Peter had found were the remains of little Jessica and Holly. Investigations revealed that the girls had not been killed in the site where the bodies were found. Instead, the bodies had been moved sometime after they had been murdered. Hair samples found on tree branches at the discovery site later gave the most accurate form of identification as it belonged to Jessica. The families were notified immediately, and the announcement was made to the public.
Wow. That hurts my soul.
While being interrogated, Huntley refrained from answering any questions posed by the police and was very elusive. He appeared emotionally detached and, in a bid to escape the system, pretended he was mentally ill by speaking incoherently and drooling while staring blankly into the walls. By law, the police referred Huntley to be evaluated by a psychologist to determine if he was mentally capable of being tried by a court. Unlike Huntley, Maxine immediately confessed to the fact that she lied about being at home the night the girls came knocking, and she was in Grimsby instead. According to her, Huntley had called her to inform her that both girls had passed by his house, and he talked to them, but was afraid that if the police found out about his previous sexual crime allegations, they would make him a suspect. So she covered for him because she was afraid that if the police found out he had a previous record of alleged sexual misconduct, he would be arrested. According to Huntley's story to Maxine, one of the girls had suffered a nosebleed, so he offered to clean her up, after which he said they left his house. It wasn't until she was informed that both girls had been found dead that Maxine burst into tears, stating, "No, he can't have been. It can't have been. He hasn't done it." Clearly still in denial that her boyfriend could do such a thing.
In denial? Come on, girl. Think about it. My man is lying. He lying to the whole world. You feel me? Lying to you, newscasters. And you talking about, oh, he couldn't have done it. He couldn't have done it. Man, fuck out of here, bro. And what was you looking at in the trunk of his car? What was you looking at? I know you know that he did it. What was you looking at? Why was you crying in the trunk of his car? Why did y'all speed off? Come on, bro.
Maxine maintained that she thought she was doing the right thing by lying to protect him. After being cleared by a psychologist as mentally sound and competent, Huntley was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and was taken to court for trial. Maxine was also charged with an attempt to pervert the course of justice and 2 counts of assisting an offender. The trial for the case began in January of 2003 and lasted for almost a year, with the jury delivering its verdict on the 17th of December 2003. In the case of Ian Huntley, he was found guilty on both counts of murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum life term of 40 years. Maxine was found not guilty on the charge of assisting an offender, as the jury believed she lied to protect Huntley, genuinely believing he was innocent. However, she pleaded guilty to the charge of perverting the course of justice and was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Throughout his stay in prison, Huntley has been targeted by fellow inmates.
Good.
Which is quite common in the penal system for pedophiles and child murderers. He is currently serving out his sentence in Franklin Prison, where he would be eligible for parole sometime in 2043 when he is 68 years old. Up until now, Ian continues to remain tight-lipped about the events that happened on that fateful night, choosing instead to take his secret to the grave. Thanks for tuning in.
Shout out to those inmates that are whooping his ass on a daily basis. Shout out to them. You know, they need a pat on the back. Weird ass dude, man. Sick. That's sickening. Sickening, bro. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. Thank you guys for commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.